Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Thank you for joining us for the media availability with Ottawa Police Interim Chief Steve Bell. Joining us are Deputy Commissioner Chris Harkins with the Ontario Provincial Police, RCMP Deputy Commissioner Mike Duhem, Federal Policing, and City of Ottawa General Manager, Emergency and Protective Services, Kim Ayotte. Merci de vous joindre à nous pour le point de presse du chef par intérim de la police d'Ottawa, Steve Bell. Également présent, le commissaire adjoint Chris Harkins de la police provinciale de l'Ontario, le sous-commissaire Mike Duhem de la GRC, police fédérale, le directeur général des services de protection et d'urgence de la ville d'Ottawa, Kim Ayotte. I am Corporal Vladimir Napoleon with the RCMP. I will be the moderator. We will begin with remarks from Interim Chief Bell, followed by General Manager Kim Ayotte, and then we will proceed to a 15-minute question period. Je suis le caporal Vladimir Napoléon de la GRC et le modérateur pour la période de questions de 15 minutes. Nous commençons d'abord par l'énoncé du chef par intérim, ensuite le directeur général Kim Ayotte.
Merci, Vladimir. Bonjour à tous. Today we made some very important progress in safely removing this unlawful protest from our streets. At every step in this operation, we've been upfront and clear with the unlawful protesters that they must leave the area. We've advised them of our enforcement efforts so they could continue to make informed decisions. We've backed up those warnings with a deliberate and methodical operation using lawful and safe tactics. The officers on the ground have shown patience and professionalism. They are well-trained and experienced, and they needed all of that expertise to bring about the results that we are seeing. At every step, they faced a barrage of resistance, shoving, and vitriol. We all saw that the protesters were aggressive with the officers, and we needed to use horses at one point. As a result, we responded this morning by adding helmets and batons to our equipment for the safety of our officers. When we deployed our officers this morning, you saw the public order units on the ground sweeping across the downtown core from east to west and moving demonstrators out of the parliamentary precinct. Our officers continued to face resistance. At one point, a flare was ignited by a protester. Officers used a chemical irritant, also known as pepper spray, to disperse unlawful demonstrators who were resisting police orders. Sadly, we again saw young children being brought to the unlawful demonstration and to the front of our police operation. This is dangerous and is putting young children at risk. So far today, we've arrested 47 people. That brings the total so far to 170. As we continue to take back our streets, City of Ottawa crews and other municipal vehicles came into the area to clean up and tow away all of the demonstrators' possessions and vehicles. This is tough work. These officers are doing what they've been trained to do. They have demonstrated unparalleled discipline, restraint, and the utmost professionalism. I commend them for their actions yesterday and throughout the day today. I'm proud of them and all the members of our police service that have contributed to this operation. Je suis fier de tous les corps policiers pour leur service à notre communauté pendant cette période difficile. This is an Ottawa-led police joint operation, but this is actually a Canadian effort. We have officers from across the province and country here to help us. Every person supporting this effort is proud to be here. Police have a vital role in our democracy, and this operation shows our institution's commitment and ability to maintain a lawful society. But we could not do this without the support of the community that we serve. All levels of government, the federal, provincial, and municipal, have contributed to this effort, all to support our city and every other community being affected by similar unlawful demonstrations. By working together, we are showing the strength of our democracy. To downtown residents, we are focused on your safety. We are not going anywhere until you have your streets back. We are aware of protesters leaving the parliamentary precinct, moving to surrounding neighborhoods. We are working with our partners, and we will remove these protesters peacefully from your area. This operation is still moving forward. It is not over, and it will take more time until we have achieved our goals. Following Mr. Ayotte's comments, I'll be available to answer questions.
Thank you, Chief Bell. Good afternoon, everyone. Bon après-midi, tout le monde. The City continues to support our police service, who made excellent progress towards ending this occupation. I want to thank the police leadership and every single police officer from the many different forces who are involved in this operation. You are doing great work. I also want to thank and recognize City staff who've been working day and night over the past few weeks under challenging conditions. Whether you're working in public safety, emergency management, in the EOC, or in the NCRCC, whether you're public works, social services, media relations, or working for or in a city facility, whether you're corporate security or behind the scenes in a support capacity, I want to thank you. I specifically want to thank our bylaw officers who've issued over 3,600 tickets, and our fire services, firefighters, and paramedics who are working in the red zone as part of an integration team directly with police special teams, or responding to regular calls within the red zone. To the City leadership team, thank you for your constant support and availability during these difficult times. Je tiens à souligner le travail de tous les employés municipaux qui travaillent sans relâche depuis des semaines. Finally, for the public, you have been strong during this very difficult and unprecedented event. Please know that the City is already supporting activities aimed at restoring the downtown neighborhoods to their normal state. This includes removing debris, garbage, vehicles, clearing snow, installing fences, and repairing any damage left behind by these protesters. Thank you and merci.
I will now invite each media agency to come to the microphone to ask a question. Please ask one question each, starting with your name and the media that you represent. Nous allons maintenant répondre aux questions de chaque organisme média. S'il vous plaît, posez une seule question au microphone. S'il vous plaît, vous nommer et aussi nous dire le média que vous représentez.
Christian Ashkate, CTV National News. Thanks for taking our questions. Can you say when will residents have their streets back? Do you have a day in mind as Wellington is now cleared out?
So we've been clear from the beginning. This is an extremely large, complex operation. You all understand that because you've been so actively covering and reporting on it since it's begun. We won't commit to any end time because the progress of it needs to be measured, needs to be methodical, needs to be safe and lawful, as we've indicated all the way through. That is how we've approached this protest since we've started. That is how we will approach it until it's completed. I can't overstate. We are in this until it is over. Every one of our police agency partners has indicated their continued and ongoing support to work with us to finish this unlawful occupation. You have our commitment that we are here until the very end. If I had a choice, it would be right now. And that's why I implore all the protesters who remain there, go home. This occupation is now over. We will continue with our mission until it is complete.
And can you explain the chemical irritant that was used against the protesters by police today? What kind of chemical was it, and why was it used? And you also, my other question here that I really need, that's important that I want to squeeze in here is, you talk about the professionalism of police, but with respect, sir, can you explain what appears to be excessive force by police officers when a protester is arrested? There is multiple videos on social media showing police delivering blows with their knee and their fists while the protesters are down. Is this necessary?
So I haven't specifically seen the videos you're talking about, but what I can advise you is we do have mechanisms to review all of the arrests. We will absolutely be involved in reviewing arrests to make sure that the lawful amount of force was used as we executed our mission. We've been very clear from the beginning, as this has escalated and as protesters have not heeded the urging, the warnings, and then the direction to leave our streets, that we would need to escalate in our tactics. That is what you're seeing us engaged in to ultimately remove people who are refusing to leave.
Hi, Chief Bell, Frédéric with Radio-Canada. So we see that you guys, with the help of your other agencies, have practically gained all of Wellington where Parliament Hill is located. So can you tell us what's the next step into the operation, and are the forces starting to stretch thin? As you gain terrain, you're going to need more people. So what's the next step in the operation, and maybe how we're doing with officers?
So what you've seen, and we indicated from the very beginning days, this has been going to be a very deliberate and methodical approach to how we're going to gain back the area and remove everyone to execute the plan we have. We also indicated that we have the resources we need to execute this plan. What you've seen over the past number of days is the execution of that plan with the resources that we need to finalize it. We are approaching areas, our members are taking control of areas, and then we're bringing in crews behind us to remove vehicles, remediate any of the conditions that the protesters, any of the damage the protesters may have done, to make sure that as our citizens get their streets back, they are the streets that they had before this started. We will continue with our plan. We'll continue to move ahead, and I can tell you it is, to this point, going exactly as we had anticipated.
Bonjour, question en français, si possible. Andy Saint-André de TVA à Montréal. Est-ce que depuis le début de l'intervention policière d'envergure, la police a saisi des armes à feu? Ou est-elle au courant que des armes se trouvent présentement entre les mains de manifestants?
Juste, si vous pouvez répéter votre question en anglais, et puis par la suite, M. Diem va répondre en français.
Génial. Have the police seized firearms since the beginning of this major police intervention?
So what I can tell you is that we have several criminal investigations ongoing that relate to the seizure of weapons. I don't have specifics on any of those investigations because they're not yet complete and there is no charges resulting from them. When we do have that, we will provide that information.
Oui, bonjour. Juste pour la traduction, c'est effectivement, nous avons plusieurs enquêtes en cours. Vous comprendrez que l'événement est très fluide, ça change de jour en jour. Et le chef de police, M. Bell, a mentionné qu'à fur et à mesure qu'on progresse, on fera un bilan de ce qui a été saisi pour votre information.
Hi, Ashley Burke, CBC National News. Can you tell us what other methods that you used today to try and disperse crowds that we didn't see yesterday? It sounded like there was other sort of sonic or other sort of sound things that were done today that hadn't been in the past. And what else?
Yeah, we've been pretty clear from the beginning. We're actually not going to discuss the tactics we use. One of the things that you've seen that we've been engaged in is we're monitoring. We've learned from previous protests and demonstrations. We're monitoring the coverage. One of the tactics that the protesters and demonstrators are using is misinformation, information that is inaccurate, information that misleads the public. We're actively tweeting and providing information out through social media and other media mechanisms in order to be able to try and get accurate, factual information around what is going on within the protest without actually divulging any police tactics.
And just speaking of conflicting reports, yesterday there were a lot of them when it came to the case where the police horse entered the crowd. Ottawa Police had said that a bicycle was thrown at the feet of a horse, but there are conflicting reports online about that. Can you specifically tell us what happened and what happened to the civilian and the horse?
Yeah, so thank you. When you talk about misinformation, that's specifically one of the demonstrations for us of that. What happened is the crowd was escalating around the police. There was tension that was continuing to escalate between our public order unit members and the demonstrators on the line that was resulting in increased aggression by the demonstrators. Members of the mounted public order unit rode through the crowd that created separation and lowered the temperature and circumstances that existed there so as not to escalate force. Almost immediately, there was tweets, there was pictures that had been photoshopped out on social media that indicated people had died as a result of that. The horses had run over somebody with a walker in the crowd. What I can indicate is there was 2 members of the protesters who did collide with the horses. They fell down. They immediately got back up and started to again engage in their protest and demonstration activity. That is one of the circumstances where, as we monitor it, we're identifying misinformation and as quickly as we can providing accurate, real information about what is occurring on the ground.
Sorry, but was a bike actually thrown at a horse? Because there are images online that perhaps it was someone else's electronic wheelchair.
So we'll have to get more specific information on that for you, and I'll be able to provide more in coming days.
Hi, Chief Bell. It's Joanne Quinello from CBC Ottawa Local. You say you've arrested about 170 people since the police action has begun. How many folks have you actually charged?
So we're continuing to, one step is the arrest, the next step is the processing and charging of those individuals. We haven't yet pulled together and identified the number of charges that we've laid, but that will be released to the media and to the public as soon as it's available.
But are people being let go, for example, without being charged of anything, say if they promise to go home?
So what I can indicate again is we've arrested 170 people. We'll continue to do the investigations, and as we've identified those that are charged and those that may be released unconditionally, those numbers, we'll provide them to the media.
And as this is a massive operation, any chance there's a price tag on this yet? I think earlier on, when we had asked for 1,800 officers, there was an indication it might cost $2.5 million a day. Is that accurate? Or I know it's probably not exact at this moment.
So it's something that's very important to us. We know that this is going to be an extremely expensive operation. We've already talked to our federal and provincial partners about how at the end of the day we will look at having money provided to the police service for that. Those discussions are ongoing. We continue to track our costs. Our partners continue to work with us to identify the costs of policing to actually manage this event, and at the culmination of it, we'll be able to provide accurate figures.
You don't have a tally up till now, for example?
Just to remind all the journalists, one question. Thank you.
Hi, Chief Bell. Gabriel, I'm from the French radio of CBC. Just wondering, do you know how many buildings are in lockdown right now in Ottawa? And I will take a response in French also, please.
So we don't identify buildings to go into lockdown. We don't tell building owners to put their buildings in lockdown. We do provide public safety announcements as to where the demonstration is happening, where our police operations are occurring within the demonstration. So we don't directly control the number of buildings which are locked down. So I don't have that number for you. Oh, sorry.
Oui, en gros, que M. Bell disait, c'est qu'on ne contrôle pas nécessairement les entreprises qui vont en lockdown. On va donner des annonces de sécurité publique pour les rassurer, mais présentement, on n'a pas le chiffre total de tout ce qui est fermé depuis le début de la manifestation.
Hi there, Erica Ibrahim, the Canadian Press. I'm wondering what your message is to protesters and Canadians more broadly who might be upset and angry with images being published of police hitting protesters with batons and other types of force. There are images of some people, or some police striking crowd members with batons who were retreating and not being aggressive toward them. There were media in the crowds that have witnessed and reported on this. I'm wondering what you would say to those who may be concerned by that.
As I indicated earlier, we will have the opportunity to review all of those files. There are complaint mechanisms for people to enter into if they feel that there is excessive use of force by members of our police service. What I will also say is we have been here for 3 weeks. I have been at this podium for the last 5 days imploring people to leave, asking them to get out of our streets. This occupation is over. We have advised them that if they peacefully leave, they may go home. That still exists. We also indicated that we would escalate and forcefully remove people from the streets if they did not comply. Some of that is what you're seeing. So I will stand here today again and say, this demonstration is over. Go home. If you don't go home, we will remove you from the streets.
This will be the last question.
Hello, I'm Andy Lee. I'm from Independent Media. So I was in the crowd yesterday. I was unfortunately hit with some pepper spray. I just have a question. There's some video cameras that the police are using, and some news outlets are reporting that you're gathering intelligence with those cameras. Can you elaborate, like, if the protesters at this point, retreat and go home, are they going to be getting sort of repercussions down the road? Or are you going to be sort of actively pursuing the people that you've been sort of documenting and filming who are still out there protesting? What are your plans after this, after the protest is over?
Thank you. It's a great question. And the simple answer is yes. If you are involved in this protest, we will actively look to identify you and follow up with financial sanctions and criminal charges. Absolutely. This investigation will go on for months to come. It has many, many different streams, both from a federal financial level, from a provincial licensing level, from a criminal code level, from a municipal breach of court order, breach of court injunction level. It will be a complicated and time-consuming investigation that will go on for a period of time. You have my commitment that that investigation will continue, and we will hold people accountable for taking our streets over.
And could I just ask one more question?
Can we ask a question to Mr.
This
Ayotte?
concludes the media availability. Ceci conclut le point de presse. Merci.
Merci.